Hello and welcome back to the Property Pilot. Today we're talking about how many properties do you need to retire? Okay, so welcome back. Today we're talking about how many properties do you need to retire, to quit your 9 to 5 job and to earn an income through property, right? This is what this video is all going to be about. We're going to deep dive into this session. So before we can answer this question, one really important question is how much money do you need to retire, right? Really important key concept, can you retire on maybe a couple of £1,000 per month? Or do you need more than that? Maybe you've got 2 or 3 kids and they're all at school and costs are absolutely crazy. Maybe you need £5,000 or £6,000, something like that. So, how much do you need to retire? And retirement itself is an interesting idea. Are you looking to retire, at 65, 70, something like that, like most people do? Or actually, do you want to retire a bit earlier? Do you want to try and retire in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s? Which is completely possible if you invest in property in the right manner. So only you can answer this question. I can't answer this question for you. How much money do you actually need to retire? Maybe worth speaking to a financial advisor. They may be able to help you out with this question, or to the answers to this question. But one thing I can help you with is, look at your outgoing. What are your average outgoings on a monthly basis, and are they forecast to change or increase or decrease? So let's just say your average outgoings, are £2,000 per month, and you think that's going to stay the same, if not decrease. Well, you could quite comfortably say you could retire on, something slightly above that. Call it £3,000 per month. Build in that slight buffer, if things go wrong or costs increase slightly, right? So £3,000 per month is quite a nice figure. And I think most people who live, a good lifestyle can retire on £3,000 per month. Okay, so another thing we need to think about here is tax. What level of tax will you be paying when you retire? And I say retire like this is because, you don't actually have to physically retire. Maybe you're just going from working 9 till 5 and full time to just working maybe 1 or 2 days a week. But you've also got this property income on the side that's allowing you to, maybe go part-time or to work less, right? Retirement, is, I don't necessarily agree with the idea of retirement and retiring in in your 60s and your 70s. I really like working. I think work's really healthy. It focuses the mind, and it's what it's what we're made to do. It's a really positive thing, and if you enjoy what you're doing, then that's even better. So if you can get into property and you enjoy being revolved around your property, and it's a great way to actually spend your working life, and you almost don't see it as work. When you retire, what level of tax are you going to be paying? This is a really important question to ask. And again, I'd probably speak to an accountant here. Speak to your accountant. He or she will be able to advise, because if you're going to be taxed on other income, maybe you've got other income coming in, or the structure of your property investments are slightly different or unique, you could be paying actually quite serious chunks of tax every single year. So again, if that tax is quite considerable, well then maybe you actually need more than £3,000 per month to retire. Once you've factored in your tax, once you've factored in if things go wrong, your rainy day fund, that nice margin of safety, that nice buffer. So speak to your accountant, get an idea of your tax going forward. Okay, so we've got an idea of how much we need to be earning every single month to live a good life and to maintain that lifestyle. We've also got an idea of what our tax liabilities are going to be, going forward once we've got this property investment vehicle in place that's going to allow us to retire. Right, so we know those two things. That's great. Well, the question is now, what strategy do we actually want to embark upon to make this happen, to actually retire through property? And the one that I recommend is the income strategy. So this is where we invest in property for an income, for a monthly cash flow. These strategies marry up very, very nicely, because if you're actually undergoing an income strategy, you're getting paid, you're maximizing that money that's coming to you on a monthly basis, rather than over the long term, where you're more likely banking on the increase in capital and the value of that property, capital appreciation in the 10, 20, 30, 40 years, right? So undergoing an income strategy will allow you to maybe step down from your 9 to 5 job, either completely in its entirety, or maybe just go down to part-time, because this income strategy over here, where you're investing in high yielding properties, is what's going to pay you out on a monthly basis. Think about it like a dividend almost. When you invest in stocks, some stocks pay out a dividend. It's the exact same in property. We're looking for those higher yield properties that are going to pay out generously on a monthly basis. That's going to replace our 9 to 5 income, and that's going to allow us to retire. So let's actually go through some maths and answer the question, right? So in the previous video, and actually the breakdowns of average buy-to-let figures and things of that nature, but it really does depend on interest rates. So as I'm recording this video in November 2022, you can pick up a buy-to-let limited company mortgage roughly around the 5.5% mark. They've come down recently. They used to be at the 6s. They've come down, they've settled down at 5.5%. And I think they're going to come down even more in the short to medium term. For my forecasts, I'm looking in at 2024, 2025. I'm factoring in a 5% rate. That's a limited company buy-to-let, 5% rate. And I think that's going to be a safe rate for 2024, 2025 going forward, right? So this strategy relies on interest rates. Now let's just assume we've got an interest rate of around 5.5%. That's something we can get today, so it's realistic, right? And we're buying a property that's maybe £100,000. Maybe it's a 1 or 2 bed terraced property, something like that, a back-to-back, a standard introductory buy-to-let property, right? Well, maybe it'll rent out for about £700 per month. Minus your mortgage, which will be roughly around £350. You're left with £350. Now let's take off some maintenance. I normally like to attribute 10% of the rent for maintenance, things like, it could be things that go wrong. It could be your annual gas safety certificate. Also, insurance forms a small part of that maintenance fund, that 10% that I take off, and some void periods, things like that. So 10% of 700 is 70. 350 minus 70 is 280. I'm going to make the maths easy for the purpose of this video. Let's say you can walk away net with £300 per property, right? So we now know we can walk away with £300 cash every single month per property. And that's an average. Some months will be higher than that, some months will be lower than that. 1 month your boiler's going to blow and you're going to need to fork out £2,000 for a new boiler. Things happen. But on the flip side, you could have a good 3 months, nothing really goes wrong, and you haven't utilised that maintenance fund that you've allowed over here as a nice 10% contingency, right? That's how things work. So £300 per property. Let's say, using the example that we've previously just talked about, we need £3,000 per month to retire and to live that lifestyle we want to live. Well, the maths is really easy, isn't it? 3,000 divided by 300, that's 10 properties. We need 10 properties to generate £3,000 per month at current interest rates, okay? And it also depends on what deal you're getting, right? If you're buying at £100,000, you could be buying at less than that, you could be buying at more than that. And again, the rent could vary ever so slightly. So generally speaking, we need 10 properties. 300 times 10 is 3,000. I hope you're following along with me with the maths, right? Okay, so, how do we actually do this? Let's work backwards. Well, if we're actually buying 10 properties at £100,000 each, well, that's £1 million of property we're buying. Now, how are we going to finance that? As I've already alluded to, we're doing it on a 75% buy-to-let mortgage. So we can borrow £750,000 from the bank or from a mortgage lender. That means deposit-wise, we'll need, roughly speaking, £250,000, £250,000. Sounds like a lot of money, and I know it is a lot of money, but if you actually want to retire, there are different ways of doing this, but if you've got that lump sum in the bank, maybe, I don't know, you've got some savings in there, maybe you've sold a property, maybe you've got some inheritance, I don't know, then this would be a great way to invest that £250,000 that you've got in actually for you to be able to retire through property. Now, we also need some more money. I'm sorry to talk about this. We need stamp duty. So let's assume we're paying a 3% stamp duty rate. So, we'll need a bit for stamp duty, which is say £30,000, something like that. We'll also need to contribute towards the legal costs and our mortgage broker fees. Let's just call that £2,000 per property. So once you've got the £3,000 per property for the stamp duty, it's about £5,000 per property. Now, again, I haven't even factored in any refurbs or anything like that. Maybe some of these properties you buy, I actually need a couple of grand or maybe more than that actually spending or investing in them to be able to rent this property out for £700 per month, right? So let's make the maths easy. £25,000 per property for the deposit, plus £5,000 for the stamp duty, the legal fees, the broker fees. That's £30,000 per property we need. £30,000 times 10 is £300,000 cash. That's what we need to buy 10 properties using this formula and these assumptions that I've thus far been speaking about. So again, some of you may say, well, I don't have £300,000 sat in the bank. This isn't feasible for me. Everyone's different, right? Some people can retire on maybe £1,500 per month, which in that case, maybe you'll need around, 150 or slightly less than that, £150,000 to actually retire off that amount. Other people need far more to retire. So everyone is slightly different. Everyone's slightly unique. Everyone's going to have their own tax implications. So it's really important that you work out those figures for you and do what's right for you. So just to recap, we've gone through some assumptions, some math. We've worked out that if we're getting £300 per property net per month, we need 10 properties to retire. In other words, to make £3,000 per month. Now, I hope this video has been useful and I hope you've been following through with the math, and I'd be interested to hear your feedback as well. There are different ways of doing this. So for example, you could be a bit more active in property, you could be flipping property. Of course, you're not going to be really retiring because most of your time is going to be spent in property if you're undergoing an active trading, a flipping style property investment, rather than, as I've alluded to on the video, investing in higher yield, income investing property, which is a more passive way of investing in property. Even if you've got 10 properties and you're managing them yourself, it's not going to take you more than half a day day per week to manage those properties, right? It's a great way to retire, and it's a great way to earn income in a relatively passive manner. So I hope this video has been really useful, and it's opened, you know, some of your ideas to actually, you know, I could actually retire for your property. Maybe you can't actually do it in one lump sum, but maybe you can do it over 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. You know, slowly reinvest your funds from your 9-to-5 job and from elsewhere into property. And even if you're only buying one property a year, you could maybe retire in 10 years. How crazy is that? You know, you could be in your 20s buying one property per year, and you could be retired by the time you're 30 years old, right? That's unbelievable to think about. And I'm really passionate about this, because you don't get taught this in school. In school, you get taught to, you know, work till you're 65, 70, and then you can retire and have your fun. I'm not a believer of that philosophy. You've got control in your life to actually do this yourself. You know, learn from people like me. You know, learn from these life lessons and experiences that people like me learn and fail from, and we can pass on all this good stuff that we've learned to you, and, you know, understand how to play the game. You know, investing in property is easy. You just got to know how, and once you understand how and you've got the process nailed, it's extremely scalable. You can move from 1 to 2 to 3 to 5 to 10 to 20 very, very quickly. So I'm rambling on. I'll leave it there. I hope you've enjoyed the video and enjoy your day.